Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is Friday, January 29th, and it is time for the Rocket League NA Power Ranking Show, where we will, I want to say unveil, but not really because they've already been unveiled, but go over this past week's power rankings on the North American scene. So without any further ado, there we are. Good evening, everybody. My name is Shalthis. This is the NA Power Ranking Show. We are about to dive in to this past week's sort of results in North America, talk about where the teams are, why they are where they are. We have a ton of news scrolling by at the bottom of the screen in terms of roster updates, available free agents. You know the list, you know how it goes. So that's all going to be scrolling out underneath. The big news, of course, that I actually do want to talk about, there's two big stories. The first one, which I think a lot of people are very well aware of, Apollo 11 has left SNK Esports, so they are going to be returning to their old name of Apollo 11, and will continue to participate in the Pro League and other events and such going forward. We also know that Untethered has left Nexus. So, Untethered leaving Nexus Esports, they're going to resume their old name. Who knows what their future holds. But two big teams leaving their respective organizations right now. It seems like a lot of teams are kind of gearing up for the next big thing and trying to see when they want to be there when the scene really takes off, so that they have a chance of catching the eye of some sponsors that might offer a little bit more than just the additional promotion and exposure and things like that. So in any event, I think, now that it is that time of day, we should get into our power rankings and let's talk about who the top 10 teams in North America really are for this week. So without any further ado, let's get right down to it. Number 10, Moonmen. So Moonmen coming in at number 10, mainly due to a little bit of a lack of advancement in some ways, and kind of being they've been consistent, but other teams have improved, and that has resulted in them losing one spot this week. So Moonmen kind of right on that cusp of, you know, dropping out of the top 10, but I'd be very surprised if they did, because they seem to be maintaining the type of performance that needs to keep them there. I just think they need to get a little, cover that little edge that they need to cover in order to actually make it into like a semifinal, or past the semifinals into a final, maybe win a tournament, get some bigger wins against some of the other teams in the power rankings directly above them. So hopefully those opportunities will present themselves either through ESL or through other events in the near future. So Moonmen coming in at number 10. Now at number 9, Foremost. So Foremost has done very well for themselves this past week, picking up some nice wins, and they're going to finally break into the top 10 here in the power rankings. So good on them, making it into number 9 spot. So they do have a little bit of work to do to crack further up in the rankings, but Foremost has been a team that's kind of always been on the radar, and has always been within that, on the bubble, or within that conversation that puts teams in the top 10. So I can expect them to make some progress going forward. So with that little bit of movement that we're seeing here, one of the things you will notice throughout this is that there's not a lot of really overall movement in the power rankings on the NA side this week. But there is a bit, and it is worth noting when those moments come up. So moving in, number 8, Turbulence. So Turbulence goes up one spot, having some decent performance on their end, getting the win over Foremost. I believe they had a win over Foremost this week. And that performance just nudges them ahead of the pack. And that, basically, this is the spot that is mostly determined by things like ESL and potentially things like Rocket League, if more teams end up playing in that. Because what we're getting here now is we're going to enter the top 7. And the top 7 are basically the Pro League teams, and those rankings shift based off of that and other events that they might play in. But as far as the ESL teams go, the teams that typically play in ESL every Sunday, that is your results so far. So Turbulence coming in up one spot to move into number 8. So that takes us into the number 7 spot, and that is going to go to Apollo 11. So formerly SNK, they're holding on to that 7th spot. No movement on their end, but it really just had to do with not much to say this past week. Other teams have been performing a lot better. Some very surprising results coming in from other teams. But Apollo 11 holding on to that number 7 spot pretty convincingly for now. And they probably will hold on to that at least in the foreseeable future, unless we see some kind of really unusual or obscene performance in the Pro League over the next few weeks. But pretty much not a whole lot to say when it comes to Apollo 11 right now, but they have that spot on lockdown. So number 6, failure to launch. So failure to launch with a very big win this past Sunday in the Pro League by getting the 3-2 set advantage over Never on Target. So that's a huge win for them, and it shows why they deserve to be a Pro League team, but it's also showing a potential weakness on the part of Team Not. And that's not a dig at failure to launch, but you have to look at failure to launch's record against teams like Cosmic and Kings of Urban, where maybe they could have taken some games off of Not, but I don't think many people expected them to take the series and take that advantage. So, big advantage for them. So, failure to launch, holding on to that 6th spot, mainly because it's hard to crack into the top 5. Let's just say that much. So, failure to launch in at number 6. Number 5, Untethered. So, the former Nexus team is up 1 spot because they're actually tied for 4th. And that was why they're up 1, because they're tied for 4th with Never on Target. So Never on Target moving down 1 spot. They are both going to be tied in that 4th place spot due to the averages of the rankings. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that Not has not been performing up to their usual standards and their usual expectations. So they fall a little bit behind here, and Untethered is able to make up a little bit of ground. So both of these teams now ranking pretty evenly here in the power rankings, so evenly that they have in fact tied for 4th place. So there you have it, Untethered, Never on Target tied. And obviously the big questions here, these are 2 currently unsponsored teams. Untethered recently leaving Nexus, and we have to wonder what's the future going to be? Are they going to hold out and wait for the scene to grow? Are they waiting for a bigger team to notice them? Or what will it be? Because we're at a point right now where the growth of the scene is very near. You know, the involvement of psionics, the introduction of larger tournaments, we're on the cusp of that. And a lot of teams realize that. And if you're on this list, if you're a team that's in this top 10, that's enough to get you noticed by companies that are going to want to put some money into Rocket League. If you're consistently on this list, and Untethered is one of those teams, then you're going to want to hold out and be noticed. So that could be something that Untethered's trying to do here, is they know maybe their deal with Nexus wasn't quite up to what they wanted. Maybe Nexus wasn't honoring that deal. I don't know. I don't know the specifics. I don't know how it was going, but in either event, both them and Not are in 4th place. Now, Not is a bit of a different animal. They've always been unsponsored, and they've been a team that's regularly been in that top 3, top 4 position, but their performance has slipped a bit. Obviously, they've dropped 3 games to failure to launch last Sunday, so they've got some things to work on. They've yet to win a series in the Pro League, but their first 2 games, of course, were against Kings of Urban and Cosmic, but they haven't really been able to do it. So they did lose a spot in the power rankings, tied with Untethered, and that takes us into number 3, Orange Creamsicle. So Orange Creamsicle, despite a bit of a shellacking at the hands of Kings of Urban, still seems to be able to outperform their counterparts. And based off of everything, based off the averages in the power rankings, they seem to have earned themselves a spot in number 3, and that moves them up 1 place from 4 last week. So OC getting into that number 3 spot, showing that they are a team that I had mentioned a few weeks ago, and I've been consistently mentioning, to be honest, is a team that you need to keep an eye on, that has the potential to be a very effective and very dangerous team going forward, and they've apparently proved it this week, moving up 1 spot into that number 3, so Orange Creamsicle going to be holding on there. Number 2, no surprise here, Kings of Urban. So they will retain their number 2 spot for another week in a row. And I think what we're coming down to, the obvious number one, is IBP Cosmic. So, with this 1 and 2, you know, this is one of the big debates amongst NA fans, or even amongst fans of just competitive Rocket League in general, is where should Cosmic and Kings rank? Should Cosmic be 2 and Kings be 1? Should Kings be 1 and Cosmic, you know, should it be the other way around? So, why is it that Cosmic is still number 1? I think on the NA side, the big deciding factor for that is going to have to come down to the head-to-head. It feels like on the NA side, they're waiting for that head-to-head. And when we get Cosmic versus Kings, when that match happens, that result should help give us an undisputed number 1 here in the Pro League. Not just the Pro League, I'm sorry, but not only in the Pro League, but in the Power Rankings. So, you know, there's a lot of debate as to which team should go where, but as it stands right now, Cosmic has consistently been performing well, so has Kings of Urban. So they might be 1 and 2 in the rankings, but the gap is very, very small. I'm talking like a hair. This is the equivalent of Cosmic is 1.1 and Kings of Urban is 1.2. Like, that's how it really breaks down to. But we're waiting for that head-to-head. When we finally get Kings of Urban versus Cosmic in a best-of-5 in the Pro League, I'm sure that will help us determine officially and finally who that number 1 team is. Undisputed. But with that being said, there you have it. Your power rankings for the North American region are set and revealed. There's your top 10. So, the only surprise here, well, kind of a surprise, is that tie for 4th place between Never on Target and Untethered. But now is the point in the conversation where I turn the discussion to you. Members of the chat, it is now your time to contribute to the stream. If you have any questions about these power rankings, any commentary that you would like me to dig into, now is your time. So go ahead and post up in the chat, and let's talk about these rankings. We can also talk about the competitive scene in general, and whatever else may be on the horizon. And while I'm waiting for questions to stock up, I will remind everybody that tomorrow, starting at noon Eastern, will be the Gfinity Rocket League Invitational. I will be shoutcasting that all day long, alongside Freezing Wolves, Mega Shogun, and the Pash. So, if you want to be a part of that, make sure you tune in to twitch.tv/Freezing Wolves. That's where the primary stream is going to be. There's also going to be a secondary stream on the Pash's channel, so you can watch any matches that aren't being broadcast by us will be covered by the Pash and Shogun. And then we're going to have a bit of a rotation throughout the rest of the day once the tournament focuses solely on the primary stream. But I will be there the entire time, bringing you that event. And again, it's the top 8 teams, or 8 of the top teams in Europe, which I think if we look at the power rankings, are the top 8 teams this past week. Flipside, SK, Crown and Jewels, Spectral, MyXMG, Supersonic Avengers, Team Rocket, and Noble Esports, all playing in that on that tournament's double elimination, best of 7th all throughout, then a best of 9 final. Will be very exciting, very fun to watch. I hope you all tune in for some awesome Rocket League action. So, in any event, let's take a look at the chat, see what's going on. If Cosmic and Urban had a match, who do you think would win? That's kind of the million-dollar question right now, isn't it? You know, that's the thing that a lot of people want to know. Personally, I'd give the nod to Kings of Urban. I feel that Kings of Urban, they feel like the stronger team right now. And that's just me kind of looking at intangibles and looking at their history. But I think in the head-to-head, Kings might be able to edge that out. But you never know. It really comes down to what sort of Cosmic team you get. Cosmic can run kind of hot and cold. Or, in better terms, hot and warm. When they're hot, they are unstoppable. Their teamwork clicks on every point. Gibbs is solid in defense. And they are just shooting balls into the net left and right. When they're not firing like that, they leave gaps in their defense. And there's areas of opportunity for a team that's as coordinated as Kings of Urban to exploit, basically. And that's kind of the biggest thing that we'll have to see going into whenever they have their actual game. I don't know when their game is. I would have to check on the schedule, which I do have here. So Kings versus Cosmic is week 5. So not this week, but next week. We finally get that matchup. So just one more week. All right. Let's see. Do you think next week Kings of Urban versus Cosmic without Gibbs and A-Money as a sub going to make Cosmic weak without Gibbs or not? If Gibbs isn't going to be there, it will change the dynamic. Definitely. I don't think it'll change it as severely as if Sad Jr. or Kronovi weren't there, but anytime you sub out a player when you have a very solid team dynamic can definitely affect it. What was the thought process behind Orange Creamsicle getting number 3? It's a good question that unfortunately I can't really answer because in my individual rankings, the one that, because if you don't know how this works, there are 7 people who did these rankings this week, and every single one of us contributes our own 1 through 15 to determine the top 10. I personally put OC at number 4 and not in number 3. I didn't think that they had done poorly enough to fall out of the top 3, but a lot of other people did. And it was enough to edge them out. So there was a little bit of a dispute there. I think the vast majority of people... Actually, I'm the only one who thought that not was worth staying at number 3. I thought their loss against Failure to Launch was a problem, but I didn't think it was that big of an issue. But so be it. But yeah, if I take a look at the individual breakdown, I put them at 3 as far as not goes. Dex9 put them at 4. Everybody else put them 5th. So it was basically my 3 that helped them get enough to tie with Untethered. If I didn't put them at 3, if I put them at 4, they would have been outside of the... They would have been in 5th place, most likely. Yeah, when we get into the bottom of the power rankings, like I said, the 8, 9, and 10 spots, I never know really for sure who's going to be there, and it depends a lot on ESL over the last several weeks. Like, looking in here, you know, it was pretty... It was almost unanimous that we put Foremost at number 9. In fact, Gibbs actually put them at number 8 on his individual ranking. The rest of us put them at 9, and we just felt that they were worthy of that spot. So, I mean, it's hard to be surprised when you put them there, but yeah, it doesn't surprise me that they get in there. There's a bunch of teams that can potentially break the top 10, and that's why you see so much movement in those bottom 3 spots. You know, we've got other teams like Weebs on Wheels, Spectacular Outlaws, Avidity Esports, Ascension, Double Tap. These are all the on-the-bubble teams who can normally rotate into that top spot. So, now you've got Mad Magic 3.0, so Mad Magic trying again for the 3rd time to see if they can have a consistent team. Don't know why they have to keep putting that version number at the end, but whatever, it's all good. But yeah, there's a lot of good teams in the bottom part of NA that will rotate around quite a bit, getting in and out of there, so. Well, Apollo is no longer my team. Apollo, that's why they're listed now as Apollo 11. They have parted ways with SNK Esports, but what I will say is I've always thought that Apollo is a fantastic team. You know, Apollo 11, they have always been a team that's been on my radar personally, especially when the NA scene was all about the Cosmics and the Kings and all that sort of stuff. Apollo was a team that always seemed to be very competitive and put up a big fight. And I was surprised when Prime Thunder was moved to a sub-role. He was one of the standout guys to me on that team when I was first really taking notice of Apollo, was Prime Thunder. Because I was like, wow, this guy is just, he's very solid, he's all over the place here. But in general, I think Apollo is a fantastic team. They're very solid, and I think that they deserve their spot. They do have some things to work on in order to break into that, further up into that top 7. But as it stands right now, I think they're excellent. And I'm sad that they left Apollo, or that they left SNK, and I didn't get a chance to really work with them. But, you know, situation kind of happened and ended before I really became involved with SNK, and it was really just a matter of time before their contract ran out, because I knew they were going to be leaving the team before I joined SNK, actually. So I joined SNK with the knowledge that I was going to have to start looking for a new team to bring on board. So it does take some time. I already answered that. I explained it. Like I said, I put Orange Creamsicle at number 4. I didn't put them at 3, but everybody else did. I was the only one who put them outside of the top 3. I mean, if I look through all of the individual rankings, I think that decision was actually the closest to being unanimous. If I had put them at number 3, we all would have picked them at number 3. Not even Kings and Cosmic was unanimous. So, I mean, that's the that's the interesting thing there. So, I mean, I don't know. I'm a little perplexed that they got put in number 3 because they kind of got their clock cleaned by Kings of Urban. And yeah, not dropped 3 games to failure to launch, but was that enough? Like, did that really deserve them to lose a spot? I don't know. I didn't think so, personally. But everybody else did. So, if I had any tips for Cosmic, I don't really have tips for Cosmic. It's just a matter of consistency. You know, like I said, when Cosmic's clicking, when they're on, they are damn near unstoppable. You know, they are on fire. They just don't... They shouldn't doubt what they do. You know, Cosmic uses a strategy that a lot of other teams in the international scene don't use. And because for a lot of other teams, it's kind of a weakness. You know, there's always... And I've said this before, but I'll elaborate a bit. There are 2 primary strategies or metas for Rocket League that I feel teams follow, and it's split by region, mostly. There's the NA style, which is positional, a little bit of rotational, but it's mostly players have specific roles, and those roles are usually defense, playmaker, striker. Playmaker being like midfield, I'd say. So, defense, midfield, striker. And players usually fit into those roles on the NA teams. And you'll see that the majority of the time, not all the time, but the majority of the time, those players have roles like that. On the EU side, the EU style I call is the rotational style, where every player fits every role, and they constantly are in motion and rotating in and out. And you might have players on EU teams that are more effective strikers or more effective defenders, but they rarely just stick to those roles, and you never know where they're going to come from. And I based those off of the 2 best teams in each region, Cosmic and Flipside. Cosmic is proficient in that team-based positional play. You got Gibbs on defense, Sad Jr. as the midfield playmaker, and Kronovia as your striker. That's just how it is. And yeah, that doesn't mean that Sad's not going to score, or Gibbs isn't going to score, or Kronovia's not going to make a big save. It's going to happen. That's the nature of the game. You can't have somebody just sit in goal. But what it does mean is that the majority of the time, Gibbs will be in goal, Kronovia will be taking a setup from Sad Jr., and that'll be the goal. Now on the flip side, the literal flip side, you've got Cooksier, Mike Rules, and Marky Duda. All 3 of them incredibly talented, incredibly proficient players in any role. So, you never know when you're on defense against Flipside, you never know where that ball's coming from. It could come from Cooksier or Mike or Marky just as effectively as either or, you know? So any of them can put the ball on net just as effectively, and any of them can be back to make defensive stops. So, you see that difference when you watch the play quite a bit, but you know, I would break it down like that as terms of the 2 play styles. So, when it comes to Cosmic, because they're so proficient and effective in that play style, I don't think I'd give them any tips. I would just hope that they can be consistent in that. So I hope that is helpful. The chat got really quiet. Are anybody there? Now's your time if you have any questions to submit to the chat. Go ahead and post them away. Uh-oh. I don't know. It's not popping up. That's weird. And I would agree with you. I think Flipside is still the premier team in Europe. Or I should say one of the premier teams in the world, period. Like, they are simply effective in every sense of the word. So it's going to take a while for somebody to fully and officially dethrone Flipside. You know, yeah, they lost the power ranking spot 2 weeks ago, but they got it right back because they clicked again. So, you know, I wouldn't expect them to lose any ground there anytime soon. Oh, you know what? I forgot to... Oh, I do have my alert box up. Okay, good. Thought I had that up. Anyway, there's everybody. Hey, Scott Pilgrim, Dr. Legs, how you guys doing? Alright, cool. I kind of talked about this previously, but I think the reason that teams are either leaving their sponsors or not signing or anything like that has to do with how close we are as an esport to taking that next big step. Like, we're on the verge of going to the next level with competitive Rocket League, and I think a lot of teams want to make sure that they're ready when the big names come calling. You know, you've got Untethered, and I don't know all the specifics. I don't know all the specifics about why Apollo left SNK. I know the story from both sides. I don't know all the specifics at all about why Untethered left Nexus. But I think that's the biggest reason, is they're holding out for the next big thing. They want to make sure that they're ready when the money's there and the big promises are there so that they can represent a really well-known team when that team decides to make their move. You know, you've already got teams... Obviously, the biggest free agent right now is Kings of Urban. They are the team that I'm sure a lot of big sponsors are going to be clamoring for when they're ready. I'm sure they're already fending off offers, but when the big names come, I'm sure they're going to want to make their move. You know, Cosmic already has their deal with iBuyPower, which worked out really well for them. Flipside has their deal with Flipside Tactics, obviously. And a lot of the teams in Europe are kind of already signed to the major sponsors, for better or for worse. But right, any new teams with promise on the horizon? Definitely. I mean, there's all the teams that are on the bubble right now, but those are the ones that we really notice. You know, looking at some of the other teams, I would say... You know, there's quite a bit. There really is. The new Electric Zero, it's good to keep an eye on. The new Mad Magic, they're good. 2ARC, Failure to Qualify. Those are a lot of teams that are always good to kind of keep an eye on, because you never quite know what they're going to do. And then, you know, I don't know. There's just a lot to worry about right now. But I'm sure we'll start seeing it more and more as the weeks go on. Would it make sense if Psyonix made their move after the Pro League had ended? I don't think Psyonix cares, frankly. to be 100% honest with you, I don't think it matters to them about current events. If they want to make their move, they're going to make it. You know, period. I don't think they're going to wait till the end of the Pro League. And quite honestly, I don't want to wait till the end of the Pro League. If they want to make their move in advance, let's make it. Make it now. Like, right now, let's do it. So, I count on them to make their move a lot sooner than the end of Pro League. You know, I get the reasoning why, because you want to be like, oh, you know, let's let this finish. It's a big event. A lot of people are very excited for it. But I don't think they're going to wait. It'll happen when they're ready to make it happen. So, alright, I've already caught up with all the questions. Y'all are quiet today. That is surprising. But I guess while I'm waiting on anything else that might be coming in, comments or questions, whether it's about the power rankings, competitive scene, pro league, you name it. I'll recap my schedule really quick so y'all know what's coming up. Tomorrow, starting at noon Eastern, I will be bringing you the Gfinity Invitational, which is going to have 8 of Europe's top teams in it. That's going to be a lot of fun. Then Sunday, I'm going to be shoutcasting alongside James Bott in the RLC Pro League. So, don't know specifically what I'll be casting. Possibly the EU games. Could be the NA games. I can do it all. I can do either. I've done them all. But yeah, I'll be casting alongside him, as well as Shogun. Shogun will be joining us to cast the other side. So, he might cast NA so that he can play in ESL. They did that last week, so we'll see. But either way works for me. And either way, I will be around all weekend. Saturday is going to be a long day for me. I'm going to be casting basically the entirety of that tournament, with a few games that'll be cast on a second stream. And it will probably overlap Rocket League by a few hours. I won't be shoutcasting Rocket League this week. I'll be going back to doing that every Saturday after this weekend. But yes, it will be on Twitch, just twitch.tv/freezingwolves. That's the channel we'll be broadcasting from, and that's where the Gfinity Invitational will be. I'm going to be the primary host, I guess, the production host. So I'll be casting it with Freezing Wolves, Shogun, the Pash, all throughout the day. Lots of very exciting games coming up. It's going to be a big tournament. It could be a fairly long tournament, but I think it's going to be solid stuff. I'm very excited, and I hope to get a good night's sleep tonight. But I do have something else that I'm doing tonight. And if any of you tuned in last week, then you got the start of the Dungeon League on Seismic White's channel. So Seismic is Dungeon Master for myself, Cloudfuel, JamesBot, and Low5, who are all participating in a Dungeons & Dragons campaign for the first time. None of us have played D&D before, except for Seismic, obviously. He's kind of running the show. He knows what we're talking about, or what is being talked about. He's made this campaign. We're all playing this game for the first time, and it's pretty ridiculous. If you missed the first Friday episode, it was insane. This past Tuesday, we did a second leg of it, and it was kind of chaotic, so this week, or tonight, should be really strange. It's going to start at about 11 o'clock. It's late night, so it's super late night stuff. If you can't stay up to watch it, make sure you catch the VOD, because it is ridiculous, frankly. Last week was classic, though. I don't think anything could improve our series of critical fails on that one. But yeah, and of course you know where to find Pro League on Sunday. That's twitch.tv/Rocket League Central, so make sure you're tuning in for that. Other than that, man, you guys are quiet. I'm a little surprised. I don't know if there's any kind of Twitch issue, because I can't even pull up whoever's here. But, no, it seems to be up. Alright. Weird, but whatever. Doesn't matter. But, cool stuff. So, hope you're all doing well, anyway. Now that we've talked about the top 10 teams in North America. I seem to have a pretty good streak of being the one who reveals the top 10 in EU. Well, thank you very much for the positive feedback. Much appreciated. Much, much appreciated. How long do I think it'll be until there are Pro League LAN events? Or I guess you just mean Pro LAN tournaments? And how many people do you think will go to those events? It's obviously going to start small. If you look at a lot of other games that have their first LAN events, they start small. Unless they're for a lot of money right up front, they're going to be fairly small. But I expect them to have a pretty decent showing, I'd hope. You know, I'd like to see them have a pretty good showing. I would imagine that if it's fairly good and the action's exciting and the people are excited to be there, I mean, my goal, obviously, the first time we do a LAN is I want to be there, of course. I want to be there officially to, you know, do something, whether it's shoutcast, analyze, I don't know, anything at all. I obviously want to be there. And I'm excited about anything in particular for Gfinity tomorrow. I'm excited about the whole thing. Like, this is going to be a big tournament. Like, it's featuring the top 8 teams in Europe right now. You know, anytime you get a tournament like that, the last time we had this type of tournament was for Rocket Royale. And obviously this is isolated to Europe because it's a European company that is hosting it. But even so, you know, Europe is one of the premier competitive regions for Rocket League. It's packed with incredibly talented teams, and you've got 8 of the best, the 8 best. If you look at last week's power rankings, those top 8, those are the teams that are in the tournament on Saturday. You know, you obviously got Flipside, Crown and Jewels, SK, Spectral, Supersonic Avengers, Noble, Team Rocket, and MyXMG all playing tomorrow. So it's going to be cool. It's going to be very, very cool, and I'm looking forward to it. Can you talk about the difference between the play style? I actually kind of touched on that earlier where I was talking about the basic, you know, meta that I think is involved in Rocket League. And the gist is that these two regions tend to favor, like, NA teams tend to favor positional play over EU, which favors a more rotational style. And part of that, I think, has to do with they have a certain expectation of how they attack the net. EU teams also tend to be a lot more aggressive, so that might result in a lot more passes or a lot more assists, because if you notice, teams like Crown and Jewels and Flipside in particular will hammer the net, and Supersonic Avengers in particular. They just hammer shots away at the net, and picking up those rebounds or setting up your teammate will result in a lot of assists. So there's some potential there. That's probably why it happens. Gfinity starts at 12 noon Eastern tomorrow. So that's 5 GMT, but 12 Eastern. So anyway, going back to that previous question, because that was a little more elaborate thought. Yeah, I think that's the biggest part of it, is just the nature of how they play. And it results just in more assists and passes and stuff like that because of how it all plays out. I need... Stream labels up. Forgot to do that. There we go. Cool. Alright. So. I think I'm caught up. Again. It's alright. But there it is. Flipside has, when it comes to the Pro League, they do have a sub listed, and that's my Bipod. Bipod is their official Pro League sub, but when it comes to off Pro League, they'll use whomever they can work with at the time. But my Bipod is typically the sub that they've been using, and they actually used him not last week, but 2 weeks ago when they played against Spectral in the Pro League, and they dropped a couple of games, and then Marky Duda came back. So, but other than that, they don't have any official subs aside from that Pro League one. Nobody they use with any more regularity than Bipod. Yeah, but that's the thing that a lot of people seem to be confused by, is the subsystem in RLC Pro League. You know, none of it means that they're officially the substitutes for that team, but they are who they registered for the Pro League with as subs. Am I vouching for any teams to win in Gfinity tomorrow? Well, I'm not vouching for anything, but I have a big suspicion that Flipside Tactics will probably win it. And it depends on how they play. It depends on the type of team we get out of Flipside this particular week. You know, this particular show. If they are playing the way they usually do, then I could very well expect Flipside to take the whole thing. But I'm eager to see it. I'm eager to see what... The biggest thing I'm most excited to see are whatever games we wind up with. Like, what are the matches that we're ultimately going to wind up with for this tournament? Going deeper in through the, into the semifinals and finals. What teams are have to fight their way out of the lower bracket? That's the exciting stuff. I love double elimination because it adds that extra element of excitement to the lower bracket. And putting teams on the cusp of losing and being completely eliminated. So it really adds some excitement. But, we've got some very solid teams in this tournament. Like, some of the best in the world who are playing in it. And I think it's going to be very, very cool. So I would highly recommend tuning in for it tomorrow morning, afternoon, whatever it is for you. For some people, it's early evening in EU. For those of us in NA, it's right at noon. So, but that's my my thoughts, at least on that. But it's really going to be worth it. Pro League will be fun too. We've got some very solid matches there for the Pro League. I think, as far as what's on the cards for Pro League, I am probably most excited about... I don't know. There's not a lot of big hype games, so to say, this week. I think it's a lot of those matchups that look pretty solid on paper and could turn into really exciting matchups next week. Week 5, of course, Kings and Cosmic. I mean, that's the feature match, hands down. There's no denying that. But aside from that, yeah, I'm not sure about next week. But all right, one final call for questions, whether it's about the power rankings, the competitive scene, the game itself, or anything else. If you have any other questions, pop them up. Last call now, so get your stuff in before it's too late. Do you think ESL will consider the possibility of a double elimination? No, I don't. Not at all. And here's the thing to consider. ESL is not built to show the best in competition and provide the best competition, period. That's not what it's made for. And yeah, a double elimination tournament helps that in terms of making sure that top teams don't get ousted early due to a weird bracket. But that's not what it's made for. ESL, as it stands right now, the Go 4 tournaments are designed as non-pro amateur events. The only reason that pro teams play in them is because that's all there is. There's very few other events for a lot of these teams to play in, especially on the NA side. NA teams have the option of playing either an ESL or nothing on Sundays. They have the option of Market League on Saturday, which is good. And hopefully they'll start doing that. Oh, Fireburner, thank you for the host. Much appreciated. We're just talking about you guys. But, yeah, it's... I don't expect... What the changes they made were deliberately to shorten the length of ESL. You make it double elimination, now you're making it infinitely longer. And they don't want to do that. They want to make it shorter, way shorter. And that's why they cut down the series length through many of the first early rounds. Are the finals on the Pro League going to schedule differently from these past weeks? I don't know the full schedule for the finals. I know what the rough plans are, but nothing's official yet, so the start time will probably remain the same. Maybe. I don't know. I just don't know, unfortunately. So I can't say for sure exactly what's going to happen in the Pro League finals, but just make sure you're staying tuned to this show. You're following, Rocket League Central on Twitter, twitter.com/RocketLGCentral. So make sure you're following that, and follow me too. I'll talk about it ad nauseum at Shalthis. Easy peasy. Why did Untethered part ways with Nexus? I don't know all the specifics. I've heard a lot of different things, but I don't know the finer details about why they have decided to part ways. But for whatever reason, and it seemed very short, so I was wondering, maybe they didn't have a full contract, maybe some kind of business deal fell through. But whatever it is, Untethered made that decision to part ways. Ah, this is your captain. Thank you for the follow. Oh, Captain, my captain. Have you heard of the Pulsar Premier League? And if so, do you have any thoughts on the ideas or different divisions for teams or different skill bases? I think I know what you're asking. Yes, I have heard of the Pulsar Premier League. I think it's a great concept. Hope it pans out. I know there's a lot of ideas floating around out there from different organizations that want to host more tournaments for teams that aren't at the very, very top, to give them that exposure and give them that potential to make it into the very top. And I think that's a great idea. We need more events like that. We not only need more events for the top teams, especially in NA, but we need more events for teams that aren't at that level yet and can gain that experience and exposure and, make it through that. So, something that's a nice series of qualifiers, like you start at a certain level or you play at a certain level and then you can gradually qualify for higher and higher ranks to make it into the premier, competitive scene. I think that would be the ideal situation to have it. So, not necessarily a league, but just a series of tournaments that allows a rotation of teams to kind of change in and out would be a really good idea. So, I would like to see that. I know orgs have been kicking that idea around. I don't know what the idea will be, ultimately, or who is going to do it. But I think the Pulsar Premier League is a great start to gain more exposure for other teams like that. I think Mocket League is a great method for that. Mocket League being an open tournament is a great vehicle to get people signed up for it. So, yeah, there's good stuff. There's good stuff there. So I'm eager to see where it goes next, of course. Oh, low 5. It's not my fault. It is not my fault. Well, I didn't put you at number 1. I had put you guys at number 3. And I was just defending that. I was the only person who put you at number 3, so if you want to single anybody out, you single out Thorellian. He's the guy who put you at number 5. So, I'm just saying. Wasn't me. But, yeah, I don't know. I was actually talking about that earlier, and I think, I couldn't think of a justifiable reason personally to bump you guys out of 3rd place. Yeah, there was that dropping 3 games to failure to launch, but OC dropped all 5 games to Kings of Urban. Why is that better than dropping 3 to another Pro League team? I don't know. Didn't make any sense to me. Obviously, things are on a bit of a downturn at Not HQ, so to say. I could tell that, not having won a series in the Pro League to date, but it's always been pretty high competition, and I don't know. For me, I couldn't justify moving you out of the top 3, but it wasn't entirely up to me, unfortunately, for Team Not, but in any event, that's just where it all wound up. But tied for 4th with Untethered. We'll see what Untethered does now. So, with these team changes, I actually have to make some visual upgrades to all my graphics and stuff. I have to get rid of the SNK logo and the Nexus logo and replace them with something. I don't know what, but something. Yeah, Kings of Urban are in a very good spot, and in my opinion, they are within a breath of moving into that number 1 spot. And I think we will know for sure next Sunday, not this Sunday, but next Sunday, because this Sunday, Cosmic's out; they're not playing, and we know that Kings are playing untethered. So it's a good series, and I'm sure we'll get them some good wins. And depending on how they play against untethered, could give them that number 1. I don't know. Maybe we'll hold out for week 5. Yeah, and that was the thing too, Lo, is maybe moving down was justified, but who do you move up in that place? And when you have a situation like that, and we've had that before, when you don't know who to move up in or who to move up when you move somebody down, you just don't move them, and you just sort of that gap is bigger. Like I would have said, the gap between 2 and 3 was bigger because Not would stay at 3, but it would just be a further down 3 and harder to get to number 2 where Kings was. So that was my kind of thought process, but nobody agreed with me. I can't help it. I try. I have my own process behind it, just like all of us do, but hey, Kuniv, welcome, welcome. Bro Stash, thanks for the follow. Is Kings of Urban going to be number 1 next week because Cosmic is not playing? Probably not. Because we are 1 week away from seeing Cosmic versus Kings of Urban, I doubt you're going to see any change between 1 and 2 until that happens. Hey, Stone Moose, thank you for the follow. But yeah, that decision, these two teams are so close right now. Not only in the rankings, but just overall. Even if you look at the Pro League stats, they are 1 game difference between each other. Crocha, thank you very much. So if Kings of Urban win next Sunday against Cosmic, yeah, it's going to be against a sub. But assuming that performance is good and their performance against Untethered is good, it's going to be hard to not put them number 1. But we'll have to really see. It's probably not going to be so black and white as Flipside versus Crown and Jewels was last week, but it'll be enough that we can probably tell for sure which team should be number 1. Illuminati Banana, thank you for the follow. So, Gibbs picking the worst possible time to not play. Like I would almost say like swap schedules to make sure that he can be there, but it's not my call. But in any event, oh, Low 5, thank you for the follow, my friend. I don't know why you weren't. I mean, it could be. It's all going to add up. Tyrone. Love the spelling of that name. Welcome. But yeah, I mean, Kings of Urban moving into number 1 is going to depend entirely on how they play Sunday and how they play next week. Hey, Jacob. Thanks for the follow. Their series against Untethered is going to tell us a lot. Untethered is still a very strong team. They're tied for 4th place right now with Knot. So, if Kings of Urban, hypothetically, goes 5-0 against Untethered, and then next week goes 3-2 or 4-1 against Cosmic, how do you not put them at number 1? Granted, if Kings goes 5-0 against Untethered, we're going to have a difficult conversation on the power ranking committee. We don't even converse amongst each other, but we're going to have a difficult conversation because we're going to have to decide how, if they move into number 1, because that's a big win. Like that win would carry a ton of weight. So we'll have to see. We'll really have to see how it all plays out this Sunday. I don't know which games I'll be shoutcasting for the Pro League. Possibly EU, if I guess appropriately. But either way, it's going to be very interesting, to say the least. Everybody shows up at, like, the very end of things, too. I mean, it's not officially the end, but, like, we're an hour in. I was like, alright, now it's time to start winding down. We'll wrap up, and now everybody shows up and starts to follow. Well, I guess I got Fireburner to thank for that. So, much appreciated, good sir. Thank you very much for the host. So, if you're just joining us and you don't know exactly what's going on, Barracks, thanks for the follow. I'm accepting questions in the chat right now. It's open Q&A. If you have any questions about the competitive scene, the power rankings, the game itself, or anything you want to ask about, just post it up in the chat and I will eventually get to it. Hopefully I will answer it. Maybe. Every time I do these streams, it's kind of like an AMA on Reddit, so to say. You can ask me anything, and I might actually answer it. Good timing there, Jacob. Oh, don't worry. I've talked to Cloud, CJ. Thank you very much for that. But, no, I talked to him directly. I told him I'm good. I can handle it. Is there a big tournament happening soon? Or a new league? Well, there's the Pulsar Premier League. As for a big tournament, I mean, the Pro League is a consistently big tournament. And, of course, there's Gfinity tomorrow. That's going to be a big tournament. Top 8 teams in Europe. So if you're up early, and you want to, or early-ish, and you want to tune in at noon Eastern, 5 GMT, 6 CET, at twitch.tv/freezingwolves, tune in and watch me shoutcast tons and tons of big-time games. Hey, Samel and Cook. Do you practice Rocket League or just play casually, and when? I basically just play casually, and I do it rarely. Most of my time is spent on other projects, doing shows like this, shoutcasting Rocket League, and my work. I do writing and graphic design and things like that, so I do that sort of stuff. A new type of tournament? I don't know if there's a new type of tournament coming up, necessarily. There's a lot of stuff that's in the works in a lot of different places, but I don't know for sure what'll be happening. Just you know, stay tuned. If there's anything major coming up, you'll hear from it. You'll hear about it from me. You know, that is a surefire thing. I will definitely go live and talk about anything really major. So, I hope that clarified things. We hope. But yeah, I don't know what else might be happening. I try to stay in the loop, but it's hard when so many people are hosting so many different things on the international scene to be constantly in the loop about it all. So. This week's schedule of games for the Pro League looks very interesting. Like I said, there's nothing that really jumped out at me as being like a must-watch sort of game. But there's a lot of games that could really stir up the rankings, the standings and stuff quite a bit. The prize pool for the Pro League is subject to increase. You know, we've already announced where it's at right now, and it can only go up from there. With donations and other contributions, it only goes higher and higher. So, anytime you donate or subscribe to the Pro League, or to Rocket League Central, all those funds go directly into the esports side of Rocket League Central, and that includes the prize pool, being able to do more events, etc., etc. So, there's a lot there. What happened to Nexus? Untethered basically decided to leave the team. I don't know the specifics behind it, but yeah, Untethered decided to part ways with Nexus and are now just back to being old Untethered. What are the games that are going to happen in the NA League? It's going to be Cosmic versus Apollo 11 versus Never on Target, Orange Creamsicle versus Failure to Launch, and Untethered versus Kings of Erdom. Yes, it's Untethered because they are no longer part of Nexus. That is why. And now you know. And as they say, knowing is half the battle. Cloud9 Untethered. You never know. Probably not anytime really soon, but hopefully sooner rather than later, we'll start getting some serious teams involved, some major teams involved. I think that's the hope, and I think that's the biggest reason why teams like Untethered and Kings of Urban and Never on Target and all these teams haven't signed with a sponsor. You know, they're holding out for the big names, and justifiably so. Those names are coming. You know, the scene's going to grow, so I think things are coming. You need to know NAPR? I don't know. There's I don't say anything here that isn't revealed anywhere else, usually. I just tend to put it all in one nice package. Thoughts on the PS4 competitive scene? Is there a PS4 competitive scene? Most PS4 players can play with PC in the competitive side through private matches. So, the competitive scene is mostly PC though now. It's just easier to handle. What are the NA players that are not living in the US in the NA League? I don't know all of them. I don't know how many of them live in Canada or, you know, in other areas of North America. You know, honestly, I don't know much of the individual players' backgrounds or where they live, or we just know that, like here's the thing when it comes to playing in NA League versus EU League. You can play for whatever team you want, with the understanding that those matches are going to be held on their respective servers. So, in the case of, like, if you remember months ago when Gambit joined Swarm, Swarm being an EU team, Gambit being an NA, he could play for Swarm. There was no problem with that, but that meant that he would have to play on European servers. So there's that disadvantage there. Yeah, you can't take time off. You skip a day of harassing Cloud9 and they're just going to move on to another team. And then what? Then what are you going to do? You're going to do nothing. You're going to be stuck with signing with Radio Shack. And that's what you're going to have to do. You're going to be Team Radio Shack. But, I don't know, we're talking about whatever. Whatever happens to crop up. I talk about whatever questions I get asked in the chat, so I don't really have a specific thing that we're on at this point. We're probably going to be done relatively soon now, because it seems things are, again, quieting back down. But, yeah, I mean, there are your top 10 for NA. They're all up there. Seen them all. Yeah, they will literally be not Cloud9. And I don't mean that in the clever punny way. Team Blockbuster Video. That's all you're gonna get. You're gonna get you're gonna get Hollywood Video. That's how it's gonna be. Team Hollywood Video. How do you think the NA teams that do not have a sponsor think they can get a big sponsor like Cosmic? Easy. They are trying to back up what they're capable of with performance. So teams like Knot and Kings of Urban and OC, you know, they're showing that they're capable teams. So when the big events roll around with big prize pools and lots of viewers, the big sponsors are going to be looking too. So teams like Cloud9 or other organizations that want to make that step to move into competitive Rocket League, they're watching these big events. You know, the biggest thing right now, and this is the honest truth, companies are hesitating on Rocket League because Psyonix hasn't made their move. And the thought process is, if the publisher isn't getting involved, why should I? In certain ways. Maybe not so direct, but that's the general idea. You know, if Psyonix isn't going to be involved, why should we get involved? But, you know, that's the reason. But when that happens, when Psyonix says, here we are, we're sponsoring this big event, and you get the attention of not even just organizations, but sponsors, like companies that want to put their money into competitive Rocket League events, when you get that, then you're going to draw the eyes of Fnatic and Cloud9 and EG or Liquid or whoever wants to get involved. So it will happen. Oh, thank you, Barracks. Thanks very much. I tried to put something together that I think worked out pretty well, that made a good logo. I got that one done. I got a new one coming out for BitCloud on ECN. It should be being revealed pretty soon, and I'm still working on a bunch of other projects as well. But, yeah, I did mention that. Sponsors want to pick a winning team, but the fact is that these aren't teams that are losers. They're just winning or winning-esque, you know. There will be events where these teams can win, even if they're not directly competing against each other all the time. So you'll still see teams like OC, Knot, and Kings of Urban and such getting signed by bigger orgs because they are able to get big wins and able to win events and challenge the top of the crop, whatever. Cream of the crop, top of the crop cream, whatever. I don't know what I'm saying. Yeah, this week Orange Creamsicle ranked above Knot. Top of the cream. That's Team Knot. Ever on target. Top of the cream. Cream of the top. Crop of the cream. Yeah, that's the problem with Untethered, is their availability. It's hard because there's no real competitive scene yet in terms of something that can support teams to play professional. Very few teams can get a sponsored deal, like a not sponsored, but like salaried deal. But if these guys can start getting paid to play, then they'll be more available. So, thank you for the follow, a lovely badger. You are a lovely badger. Lovely. Absolutely lovely. So, hopefully Untethered will figure that out, but, you know, like I said, I think the hottest property right now, as far as unsigned teams go, is Kings of Urban. They are the big deal right now, and I'm sure they will field a lot of sponsor offers before their time comes and they sign the deal. I don't know. I don't know what their deal with Nexus was, but apparently it wasn't enough, or it wasn't good enough, or it wasn't working out, or what. I don't know. Skyve PT, thanks for the follow. Much appreciated. Alright. So there's your big drama. Big drama is going to be which team gets Cloud9 first. Any tips for people who want to become casters? That's a good question. There are a lot of events going on lately, and a lot of events looking for casters. The biggest thing you can do is if you don't have the experience yet shoutcasting, then you want to work on that. And what I mean is, like, fire up a game from Pro League or something like that and mute the audio and call it. Like, you don't even have to record it necessarily. I'd probably say record the audio. But, hey Driftmaster, thanks for the follow. But, just cast it. Like, start calling it. Then listen back. Listen to what you did. How you talked. Were you leaving a lot of gaps of dead air? Did you sound clear? Did you seem to have information about the game that seemed valuable? And just work that, you know? Try your best with that sort of thing. From there, start picking up these events. Yeah, you obviously got to work for free when you start. That's kind of how it goes around these parts. But if you agree to volunteer to help out events that need casters, start doing it. Stream Rocket League, shoutcast it. Shoutcast replays on a stream and record it that way. Get some feedback. That's probably the best way to get started. And then ultimately you'll start getting noticed and people want to pick you up and hire you and give you money to do it and all that good stuff. The ceiling's kind of low right now in Rocket League shoutcasting because it's not so big, but it will get bigger soon, and that's why I've been casting for the last 6 months plus, trying to get to that point. Just like a lot of people who have been playing for that duration, waiting for this moment. What are the plans for the location for the Pro League Finals? Same place they've all been. Twitch.tv/Rocket League Central. That's the most location we got for you. Alright, hold on. Do you think... I don't know if you were asking about a specific team. Do you think going to wait, same as Cosmic? Everybody's waiting for that big sponsor offer. That's why teams like Kings and Not and OC and stuff like that haven't signed. Because they're waiting for the scene to allow for bigger offers to happen. There's no real advantage for a team to get sponsored right now by an org. That's the problem. There's an advantage if you're like a really low profile team to get signed by an org, because that can get you some exposure and a little bit of credibility. But if you're already high profile and picking up a lot of wins, there's no advantage to that unless you're going to get paid to do it. So you better have a good deal on the table. What are my thoughts on Lo5's luscious beard? A+. 10 out of 10. Alright, hold on. I'm trying to get caught up now. Yeah, the Pro League is all just online. There's no LAN. We cannot afford a LAN final. It only has a $2,000 prize pool, and even, unless that jumps up to 100,000, I don't expect any LAN events anytime soon. You did alright, Lo. I thought you did good in the shoutcasting that we did during Rocket League. I thought that was fun. Thanks, Skyve. Much appreciated. CJ, thanks for the host. Have I heard about any major LANs in the plans? No. I wish. If I had heard about a LAN event coming up for Rocket League, like a legit pro LAN event, I would be all about that. But nothing yet. So sooner rather than later is my hope, but I don't know. Can't tell you. Any emails for followers? Don't need those. Alright. Well, with that, let's do one more final call for questions, and then I think we're going to wrap things up. So again, you can ask me about whatever you want. You can ask me about the competitive scene, the Pro League, the tournaments, the power rankings, the game itself, whatever you want to ask, or anything, literally anything. Fire away and I might answer. No, you could do a LAN event online. I mean, that's what Blizzard does for a lot of their stuff. They don't have LAN capability. I'd like them to add LAN capability, but they don't currently have it nor need it. I mean, there's been a lot of smaller LAN events, but they're a little different than an actual, proper LAN. So, we'll see. Have I heard of Linkaroo? Oh yeah, I know Linkaroo. I heard of Linkaroo before people heard of me. So, yeah, Linkaroo is great. When do I think NA will catch up to the EU team level? It's been slowly happening. Oh, Barrett. Thank you very much for the $5. Much appreciated. Plus I get $1 Million Man. Thanks very much. Very, very appreciative. Awesome. Anyway, yeah. Will NA catch up to EU? It's been very slowly happening, and I think it can in time. We just need more events in NA. That's the biggest holdup right now, is we need more events in NA. In your personal opinion, who is better, Crown and Jewels or Cosmic? That's a good question. I would say... That's a really good question. Crown and Jewels can crash pretty hard sometimes, and their when morale and momentum, when those things really suffer on their end, they will just drop like a rock, and sometimes Cosmic can fend that off. With what I've seen right now, I might give a slight nod to Cosmic, but it's going to depend on how they do the rest of the weeks in the Pro League and such. Who plays without triggers? It's outrageous. Oh, hey Gibbs. Yeah, you're gonna poke your nose in and just trying to make sure you're there for when I start talking about Cosmic. Yeah, no, I mean I would probably have to give the nod to Cosmic. It's slight though. It's a very tight contest between those two teams, but I think obviously Cosmic has been pretty consistent lately, and that consistency is gonna go a long way. Yeah, Crown and Jewels is really tricky. They're off and on a lot. Alright. How can a team get noticed in ESL? My team making top 50 every major. We want to get more on us. You gotta win, man. That's it. That's really the biggest thing it is you gotta win. You know? When you start beating teams that are already noticed, like power ranking level teams, you get noticed. Believe me, we notice it. And when we start noticing, other people notice, because we tell them about you. So that's the biggest advice I can give you, is just win. Win consistently and keep making a name for yourself. Get further and further up. You say top 50? Top 50 is good. Make it top 32, then top 16. Then just start being more consistent there. What are plans for major sponsorships for Rocket League? Don't know. Psyonix hopefully is the next in line to really start opening the door here, but I don't know of anything else. Gibbs is everywhere, huh? Yes, NOT stands for never on target. It should have been not on target. It's a much better name, but no, they had to go with never on target. I'm blaming Lo5 for that. It probably the blame probably falls to Classics, but I'm going to blame Lo5 because he's here. But oh, but he agrees with me, so maybe I can't blame him for that. Well, alright, I won't blame anybody, but I will say it should have been not on target. I think not on target is the preferred, should have been the preferred breakdown of that name. Because it gives the pun so many more levels. North End Trooper, thank you for the follow. Much appreciated. Don't worry, with some of the things that Lo5 does, then he might end up getting Zoltar killed, I'm sure. If he rolls another one of them critical ones. Granted, on Tuesday, that was kind of myself and Thor's night to be disastrous. Anyway. With as unstable as lower NA Pro League standings are, who are your picks for the 3-4 seed as the league progresses? Good question. I think not will qualify in that spot. And I might say it would probably be Orange Creamsicle on the NA side. My guess is OC and not. Untethered's going to be, depending on what Untethered does. They're so hard to read, though. But I would say not in OC will fit 3 and 4 in NA. In EU, probably Supersonic Avengers and SK will be the 3-4 there. Oh, is it Cloud Fuel's fault? Good, I'll blame Cloud Fuel. Let's team up. We'll kill off Thorellian tonight. We'll make sure he's no longer a problem. But yes, Not on Target would have been the best name for Team Not. So many levels, man. So many levels. Anyway. Yeah, there were a lot of natural ones during week 1 of the first night of our adventure. It was such a shit show. Fuck, was it hilarious. Anyway. Untethered beat Apollo 3-0. I expected that. Or I would have expected that result, honestly. That's not too surprising from Untethered. I'd like to see how they fare against teams closer to their ranking these days, though. Yes, Untethered was picked up by Nexus, and they ultimately left Nexus. Just Strafes, thanks for the follow. Yes, Low5, exactly. Thank you. I'm glad you agree. So I take back what I said earlier. I no longer blame you. I will shift all that blame onto Cloud Fuel. Alright. Who did I miss anything? I don't think I did. Oh, who will be casting ESL on Sunday? I have no idea. My guess might be Roken if he's around. He's been doing it lately. But I have no idea who's casting for ESL on Sunday. I'm casting Pro League on Sunday, so cannot help there. Yeah, FTL finally showed why they are a Pro League team last week, and really, stood out. But not, yeah, they gotta. I'm putting them in that top 4, but they really gotta get it together in these last few weeks to earn that. Isn't there supposed to be a Gfinity tonight? No, Gfinity is tomorrow. Saturday, Gfinity Invitational. I would know because I'm the one who's running it. Well, not running it, but running production of it. So, if I'm streaming here, it's not Gfinity time. No, they didn't do the regular Gfinity this Friday because of Saturday's event. Yeah, I don't know. I think Gfinity's moving their stuff to Saturdays consistently. I think. But we'll see. I'm just hoping that this weekend's event is really good. If you're going to be around, I encourage you to tune in. Because it's going to be full of some amazing games, that's for sure. I think it's going to be really awesome. I would love to see Not play in Gfinity. Even if it's on European servers, I think it would be fun to get them in there. Oh yeah, they do. Well, yeah, no, they will. They do overlap. If Gfinity moves to Saturday, then they definitely will overlap. In which case, I would encourage playing Rocket League because that's the one that I cast, so it's in my best effort to encourage you to play the event that I'm shoutcasting. Oh, well, actually, no, they're all listed for Friday. So never mind. I thought they were moving it to Saturday, I guess. I had heard that, but I guess that's not true. Yeah, all the events that they show for upcoming Rocket League is for Friday. So, never you mind. If it's Friday, do it. Do Friday, then do Mock It on Saturday, then do Pro League on Sunday. Full weekend. That's a pro player schedule there. That's legit. Well, if you play in a European tournament, you're kind of forced to do that. Otherwise, I think you're okay. Well, the Pro League playoffs are going to have 4 NA versus 4 EU. So if it winds up with NA versus EU in the finals of Pro League, then they just have to win that way. Otherwise, it'll be EU versus EU or NA versus NA, depending on how the bracket plays out. Later, Skyve. Thanks very much. I wish they would too, but they won't. That's good. I hope more teams fully start to play in Mock It League, and we can start incorporating Mock It League into these rankings. That would be especially nice. Yeah. Saturdays are a thing. I know, I remember their issues with Saturdays from the days of Rocket Royale. But, cool. Alright, folks. Well, I think we've had a very full and rich NA Power Ranking show. Or a very full and rich Daily Rocket for today. So, once again, later tonight, in about an hour and a half, make sure you tune in to twitch.tv/seismicwhite, and you can watch myself, Low5, Cloudfuel, and JamesBot all do God only knows what in Dungeons & Dragons. I don't even know what we're going to do, or what kind of disaster we've had. We're in a situation now where all of us are together inside of the church/barracks keep thing, and something serious and legit is happening outside. We just heard a huge explosion, some big magical thing crashed into the castle, and who knows what's coming next. I'm sure Seismic has some crazy shiznit worked out, but we'll find out what happens then. And then Saturday at noon Eastern, again, make sure you tune into twitch.tv/freezingwolves. That's where the Gfinity Rocket League Invitational is going to be. The top 8 teams in European Rocket League are playing in that tournament. It's going to be awesome. And then, of course, Sunday, twitch.tv/Rocket League Central for the RLC Pro League. You gotta be there. There's the schedule. There's the event. In my opinion, who's the better team? Supersonic Avengers or Kings of Urban? Kings. At this point, I would say Kings. But they are both really excellent teams. Anywho. Yeah, it's going to be a long campaign. That's for sure. We've only had 2 sessions right now, a long one on Friday and a shorter one this past Tuesday. We spent a long time haggling with a vendor. I had a feeling they were magical things, and we weren't getting misled. At least on some of them, I regret not getting that book. Can I tell you that much? I regret not getting that book. I wanted to get that book, or steal it, or something. The key, I didn't really care too much about, but at least I got that friggin' parchment. Because I knew that parchment was something. There was something magical about it, and it is magical. I don't know what or how, but we'll find out. When we deal with this situation that we're in right now, I'm going to check out that parchment. I want to find out more about that. You would have had to roll pretty damn high to snag the entire chest, I think. That chest had a whole painting in it. So, you would have probably had to do like a nat 20, and we're not having much luck when it comes to the old nat 20s. But, alright, anyway, that's what's going on. So again, make sure you're tuning in about an hour and a half. Starts at 11 o'clock Eastern at twitch.tv/seismicwhite. It is going to be a blast. Myself, Low5, Cloud Fuel, and JamesBot all will be participating in a action-packed D&D game where we have no idea what's going to happen. That's true, you have like a ton of points in all that. You're like the best rogue. I should have kept animate rope. Maybe that's my problem. I got rid of animate rope. I could have animated a rope to, I don't know, do rope things. Could have snuck out with a... I don't know. I feel like we probably wouldn't have been in much trouble if Low decided not to hang out and try and listen in on whatever conversation was happening, and we could all just have the window to just walk out and leave. I don't know. It was probably deliberate, but anyway, Dungeons & Dragons tonight at 11 o'clock Eastern at twitch.tv/seismicwhite. Be there. Watch it. It's going to be hilarious. I am sure of it. We've probably got some prerequisite things to clear up before we get into it. But in any event, I'm going to wrap up now and end the stream. But I'll be hosting the Seismic stream tonight as well. So I'll host it off of this channel. But be there. You got to be there. It's so much fun. It is just hilarious to watch. And who knows what kind of things either Seismic's going to throw at us or we're going to throw at Seismic. Because we tend to disrupt this campaign a little bit with very unexpected results. Such as setting a massive forest fire, killing a mother and child, and spending a good 30 minutes haggling with the vendor. Anyway, I'm off now. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I'll see you all next time. Take care. Night, everybody.